The latest on that, let's bring in our Kyiv correspondent, Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, what's the situation like there this Monday?
Well, people living in Kyiv kind of breathed a sigh of relief this Monday morning because 3 out of the previous 4 Mondays had been marked by massive Russian attacks on electricity infrastructure across Ukraine and targeting the Kyiv region in particular. This morning, there were none. The sirens did not go off, and as far as I know, no attacks of that type have been reported today. But the electricity system is still really struggling. The utilities companies say that they need to overshoot their planned blackouts by 32%, which means they already have these planned rolling blackouts where people are informed about when they're not going to have electricity. There's going to be around a third longer time without electricity than you're actually told in the planning. Actually, Ukrainians have been complaining that the companies don't really stick to this timetable. Clearly, they're struggling with the repairs. They have said, the electricity companies, that they are running out of spare parts and very much need donations of certain parts that can be used for these rapid repairs coming from their Western allies. And meanwhile, of course, there are these warnings that today's sigh of relief might be short-lived. Volodymyr Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials believe that Russia is planning more attacks, and Russia is also apparently buying new ballistic missiles from Iran, which the Ukrainian president could be used for these attacks. At the same time, of course, Ukraine has been receiving more and more air defense equipment. Just today, the defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov announced that NASAM systems, these are made in Norway and the United States, were already in Ukraine, new ones that is. We believe that means the total number of systems is up to 8. And Ukraine has also received today the Italian-made Aspide air defense systems, which they are hoping will help to protect against this campaign of Russian strikes against Ukraine's electricity infrastructure, which pretty much everyone in the Ukrainian government seems to believe is very likely to continue because it hasn't yet achieved its goals. Despite these strikes, despite the power cuts, despite the problems, nevertheless, the system is, in the words of the energy minister, stable. People do at least have electricity for some of the day, and the number of regions of Ukraine that are affected by these rolling power cuts is now down to only 6.
Gulliver, of course, all of this is happening as the fighting continues. What's the latest on the front lines in the south and the east?
Well, the Ukrainian advance towards Kherson city doesn't seem to be making any kind of rapid progress, and the rumours continue to abound about what the Russians are exactly doing, with the Ukrainians saying that they may be planning to withdraw at least partially from the area, but they just don't know. There was this strike on the power lines in Kherson region, which have left Kherson without electricity and some surrounding towns and villages. Now, the Russians, of course, are blaming that on a Ukrainian strike. The Ukrainians are trying to pin the blame on the Russians. It looks as though the lines that were cut are in Russian-held territory, which would seem to make it more likely that it was probably a Ukrainian strike. But it's worth remembering that we're talking about the area of intense combat military operations rather than a long-range strike deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure. But anyway, Kherson is without power at the moment. Further to the east, it's actually around Bakhmut and other Ukrainian-held towns in Donetsk region that the most intense fighting is still reported, with the Russians still trying to advance there but not making any real progress. And then further to the north, further away from the front lines, strictly speaking, there is this constant, almost daily shelling of Sumy region in the northeast of Ukraine. And today, one civilian was killed in the northern part of Sumy region, just inside Ukraine, just across from the Russian border.
Gulliver, thanks for that. France 24's Gulliver Cragg.